Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. Let's do it. Let's get to it. Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Jon June. And it is Thursday, December 9th. Shout out to Greg. Happy birthday to my guy. But I am your host, Jon June. I think I said that already. But either way, thank you for tuning in. It is episode 232 of the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. Week 14 game previews, part 1. Breaking down all the 1 p.m. games. Without further ado, let's just jump into it. Going to try to get through this relatively swiftly today. So, first up, we got the 6-6 Las Vegas Raiders traveling to Kansas City to take on the 8-4 Kansas City Chiefs. This game has a 48.5 point total. Kansas City Chiefs are 9.5 point favorites. In terms of the injuries here, Darren Waller for the Raiders, he was a DNP on Thursday. Kenyon Drake, running back, he was added to the injured reserve with an ankle injury. Jalen Richard, he was added to the COVID IR for Kansas City. They're mainly okay. On the Kansas City side, well, first off, I'm going to take the over here. I'm going to take Kansas City cover, Kansas City to win. On the Kansas City side, Patrick Mahomes, he's the QB8 in PPR points per game so far this year. Still a QB1, but he's finished top 7 or better in 6 of his 12 games. In his remaining 6 games, he was the QB13, QB17, QB19. Also throw in 2 QB22 finishes in there. Not great there. Obviously, 50% of the time. It's time for him to turn it around, and the Raiders are just the remedy against just that he needed here. Against the Raiders, Mahomes averages 327 passing yards, 2.9 passing touchdowns, and 0.4 interceptions. That's compared to his career game average of 2.4 touchdowns and 0.6 interceptions. So there's something about the Raiders. He likes playing them, and he gets them at home this time. So definitely think that he has a QB1 week. Add in the weapons and Kelsey and Hill and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I also think Darrell Williams makes sense as a dart throw running back play. On the Raiders side, Josh Jacobs, he's definitely in play as an RB1. No Kenyon Drake, no Jalen Richard. He's already been a staple in the pass game over recent weeks. So gotta love Josh Jacobs as an RB1. Definitely top 10 day easy for him. Hunter Renfrow, he's a wide receiver one for me in PPR formats. Derek Carr, probably not someone I'm going to go to once again without Darren Waller here. Foster Moreau, didn't see much action last week, but versus Kansas City makes sense as a streaming option, as Kansas City does allow production to the tight end position. Moving on to the next 1 p.m. game here, it is the 5-7 New Orleans Saints traveling to MetLife to take on a 3-9 New York Jets. This game has a 43.5 point total. The New Orleans Saints are 5.5 point favorites. In terms of the injuries here, Mark Ingram, Ty Montgomery, and defensive end Cam Jordan were all added to the COVID IR. So they're most likely out for this game here. On a positive side, Alvin Kamara, full participant in practice with that knee injury that has kept him out the last 4 games. For the New York Jets, Tevin Coleman, he's a DNP with a concussion. Elijah Moore, DNP with a quad. So that's not great news there on the Elijah Moore front. In this game here, I will take the over here. I will take the Jets to cover. I will take the Saints to win. Taysom Hill, once again, a quarterback one. Again, it's the Jets. Like Greg said, that's his quarterback stream of the week. He's got to be in line for a quarterback 1 week. Alvin Kamara doesn't need a whole lot of touches to get it done against this really bad run defense. So definitely going to light him up as a high-end RB1 play in his first game back. Going to stay away from the passing game for the most part. Might be willing to take a dart throw on Lil Jordan Humphrey, though. We did see him again line up in the middle of the field. It is primarily in the slot, almost like a tight end. If you saw the alignment, just not in a 3-point stance. But he really did have some a role there playing in the middle of that New Orleans Saints offense, and the Jets struggle against the tight end position. So I think it could be a favorable matchup here for Little Jordan Humphrey. Um, Moving on to the Jets side, I really like Zach Wilson as a streaming option this week. He's my quarterback stream of the week. With Tevin Coleman out, possibly Ty Johnson's in line for increased work, but against a tough Saints rush defense, I'm probably going to be out. Although he could potentially have some RB3 potentially, some RB3 value potentially with some pass game usage. So maybe not all the way out there. Maybe it's like a desperation play. Elijah Moore, he's a wide receiver one as long as he's healthy. Definitely going to monitor that news as the week goes on. Jamison Crowder, a wide receiver 3 option, I think, against the Saints. Moving on to the next matchup here, the 2-10 Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to Tennessee to take on the 8-4 Tennessee Titans. This game has a 43.5-point total. The Tennessee Titans are 8.5-point favorites. In terms of the weather, we're okay here. James Robinson, he was a DNP on Thursday with a heel. Well, we believe it was the heel and knee. There might also be some other stuff going on there, some friction with the coaching staff, but we'll have to see how that situation sorts itself out. On the Tennessee side, Julio Jones, he practiced earlier in the week on Monday, Tuesday, but was sat out of practice on Wednesday. Has been designated to return from the injured reserve list, so um, you know, on track to play. I would think. In terms of the game here, I'm going to take the under. Going to take Tennessee to cover. Going to take Tennessee to win. On the Jacksonville side, Trevor Lawrence makes sense as a streaming option, or if you're in need of a QB2 in your super flex league. But I mean, that would be desperation style though, because he has not been great. So even in the matchups where you expect him to be good, he's been even then below average. So tough to trust him, but you have to imagine a player like him, who's as touted as he was, as talented as he is, would have to, do well at some point here. James Robinson should be an RB1 option. Maybe there's some squeaky wheel action here as well. So definitely curious to see how that plays out. If I attach myself to a pass catcher in this offense, it would probably be Laviska Shenault for playing PPR leagues, because he's going to get the volume there. Although I'm going to also bring up my guy James O'Shaughnessy. Whichever tight end just plays in this offense will get brought up. So be ready for that. On the Tennessee side, Ryan Tannehill could be a low end QB1, high end QB2 potentially in this matchup here. Julio Jones has an opportunity here as a wide receiver 2. And then I think you could take a shot on both of these running backs and Dontrell Hilliard and Deonta Foreman. I probably lean towards Hilliard because of the pass catching chops, but in this game here where they're going to be 8.5-point favorites at home, favorable game script, I picked them both. I picked them, the Tennessee Titans to cover. I think both these running backs can have a usable day here in fantasy, especially if you're playing in PPR leagues. Moving on to the next matchup here, we got the 8-4 Baltimore Ravens traveling to Cleveland, take on the 6-6 Cleveland Browns. This game has a 41.5-point total. The Browns are 2.5-point favorites. In terms of the injuries here, Baltimore is okay, but on the Cleveland side, punter Jamie Gilman, tight end David Njoku, linebacker Anthony Walker were all added to the COVID IR list. So their status is in doubt for Sunday. Jarvis Landry, the wide receiver, he's limited participant in practice with a knee injury. Harrison Bryant, the tight end, he is out with an ankle injury. Wide receiver Anthony Schwartz, he was a DNP with a concussion. I'm going to take the over here. Going to take Cleveland to cover. Going to take Cleveland to win. On the Baltimore side, need Lamar to come through this week as a top 5 option. That just kind of has to happen. It just hasn't been there. And we enter these fantasy playoffs, you just need him to be that guy that that we drafted him to be. We expect him to be. So definitely hope he turns it around this week against Cleveland. I expect him to. He's a top 5 option for me. Devonta Freeman, an RB2 here, has been solid these last few weeks. Real solid these last few weeks. So he's been getting the volume. He's also been getting receptions in these PPR leagues. So definitely think he has some RB2 value. Mark Andrews in a nice spot this week as a top 3 option. Hollywood Brown has slowed down as of late, but I think we can get a bounce back here against Cleveland. Has 81 grabs, or he has eight grabs for 51 yards against them the last time that these guys faced off. On the Cleveland side, Baker Mayfield is in QB2 territory for me. Nick Chubb has had some big games against Baltimore before, so definitely not out of the realm possibility that he has one here. But he's more of an RB2 for me this week. Hopefully he can get in the end zone a couple times. That'd be our avenue there to an RB1 day. Jarvis Landry, wide receiver 2 option. Donovan Peoples-Jones, probably a wide receiver 3, but I really like his upside, especially in a game like this one here. And then Austin Hooper gets a nice bump with his 2 other running mates potentially out here on Sunday. Well, we know one's definitely out, but David Njoku, his status is up in the air. Moving on to the 5-7 Atlanta Falcons traveling to Carolina to take on the 5-7 Carolina Panthers. This game has a 43.5 point total. Carolina Panthers are 3-point favorites. In terms of this, the injuries here, Hayden Hurst, tight end for the Atlanta Falcons, he's been designated to return from injured reserve there. On Carolina, offensive tackle Trent Scott, he was placed on the COVID IR. In terms of the game here, I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take Atlanta to cover the 3 points, but I'm going to take Carolina to ultimately win this game here. Cordero Patterson, top 5 option, whatever you need him to be, pretty much. Russell Gage has value as basically a wide receiver. He is, of course, basically a wide receiver. He has wide receiver 2 value against Carolina here. Kyle Pitts, not seeing the target volume that he once was seeing, so definitely tough to trust him right now. You kind of have to wonder whether Atlanta will switch things up. Cam Newton, a quarterback 1, DJ Moore in wide receiver 2 territory for me. Curious to see how this backfield splits up here in Carolina with Chuba Hubbard and Amir Abdullah. I think Abdullah leads the backfield in touches and fantasy points. That's my prediction there for the backfield, but definitely we'll see. Moving on to a matchup that has some intrigue, some potential divisional implications here. The 8-4 Dallas Cowboys traveling to Washington to take on the 6-6 Washington football team. This game has a 47.5 point total. The Cowboys are 4-point favorites. This game, again, very interesting. These teams play each other twice within these next few weeks here. So, Washington with an opportunity to, make a run here, at this division. So curious to see how this will play out. In terms of the injuries here, Micah Parsons, questionable with a hip injury, was a DNP on Wednesday rather. Noah Brown, he was added to the injured reserve with a groin injury. Cedric Wilson, he was limited participant with the ankle that kept him out last week. Tony Pollard, he's dealing with a foot injury that is causing him to potentially be a game time decision on Sunday. On the Washington side, Curtis Samuel, he was a limited participant with a groin injury. Landon Collins, he was a limited participant with a foot. Ricky Seals-Jones, limited with a hip. Jamin Davis, limited with a concussion. And then Montez Sweat, he will be out as he was placed on the COVID injured reserve list. I'm going to take the over here. Going to take Washington to cover 4 points. Going to take Dallas to win the game here. Think we get a close matchup here, divisional game. Washington's at home here. But for Dallas, Dak, I think, gets a bump here with the banged up backfield between Zeke and Tony Pollard. Both running backs, I think, if they go, are RB2s, regardless of if one or both go. I think, they're both of them being banged up kind of limits their upside there. CD Lamb going to be a wide receiver 1 for me. I think, going forward, it's pretty much going to stay that way. I think having the ability to line up in the slot is going to unlock a different CD Lamb here down the stretch. So CD Lamb, wide receiver 1 season, pretty much here now. Amari Cooper, wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside. Michael Gallup's going to be a wide receiver 3 with wide receiver 2 upside. Dalton Schultz at tight end, probably going to be a high floor play for me. Got him at tight end 11 on the week. That's pretty much where I'm going to have him pretty much every week. So not much upside. If he catches a touchdown, that's fantastic, but he won't tank you at the tight end position. Not going to get a 0. On the Washington side, I will say it. I really like Taylor Heineke again this week. I know it didn't come to fruition last week. Las Vegas didn't come through on their part of the bargain. I expect Dallas to come through on their part of the bargain here. So Taylor Heineke definitely makes a ton of sense as a QB1. Antonio Gibson, borderline RB1, RB2 here for me this week. Terry McLaurin going to be a wide receiver 2 option for me. Just on the edge of wide receiver 1 option. J.D. McKissick could potentially be back this week, so definitely watch out for that. And then Ricky Seals-Jones has tight end 1 upside for sure in this offense. The matchup is decent too, so definitely could look to him as a deep tight end player, as a streaming option. And then moving on to this last matchup here, the last 1 p.m. matchup that we will cover today, or last matchup we'll cover on this part 1 segment. We've got the 4-8 Seattle Seahawks traveling to Houston to take on the 2-10 Houston Texans. This game has a 41.5 point total. The Seattle Seahawks are 7.5 point favorites. This game is played in the Dome, so no weather concerns there. On the Houston side, Brevin Jordan, he was DNP Wednesday with a hand injury. On the Seattle side, Alex Collins, he was limited on Thursday with an abdomen. DK Metcalf, he was limited with a foot and an illness. Quandre Diggs, he was limited with a calf, DNP on Wednesday. Travis Homer, he was limited with a calf and a hamstring. And then Jamal Adams, safety, is out for the rest of the season with a shoulder injury that requires season-ending surgery. I'm going to take the over here, going to take Seattle to cover, going to take Seattle to win. On the Houston side, Brandon Cooks has not been all that great this year, but I think you go with him. As a wide receiver 3 option. Russell Wilson, borderline QB1. Tyler Lockett is a borderline wide receiver 1. DK Metcalf has to turn it around at some point. I think that's going to happen this week here against Houston. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, that is the part 1 preview, breaking down all the 1 p.m. games. So, if you would like to obviously listen to part 2, that'll be here tomorrow, or Saturday rather. That'll be here. So also you'll be able to catch my starts of the week, as well as play some get money. We'll do something DFS centric that day. So that being said, y'all, we are good luck this weekend, or in your Thursday night matchups. If you have people going on Thursday night, Justin Jefferson's cooking right now. Dalvin Cook is cooking right now. So that being said, I'm going to go back, enjoy the rest of these games, or enjoy the rest of this game. But catch y'all later. Have a good one. I'm out of here. Peace.